The moment Claire Dawson stepped onto the dirt road leading to the Double T Ranch, she saw him standing on the porch. Tall, weathered, his hands resting easy on the rail. She had not seen Ethan Cole in 12 years. Not since her father lost everything. Not since the bank took their land and scattered her family like seeds into a hard wind. She had expected anger. She had expected him to turn her away. What she did not expect was the small, quiet smile that moved across his face when he recognized her. "Claire Dawson," he said, his voice low and steady. "I've been waiting for you." 12 years earlier, the Double T had been her home. Rolling Montana grassland stretched from horizon to horizon. Her father, Thomas Dawson, had built the ranch with his own hands. Her mother, Mary, had sewn the curtains and planted roses beside the porch. Claire had learned to ride there, learned to read beneath the shade of cottonwood trees, learned what home felt like. Then the drought came. 2 years without rain. Cattle died. Crops withered. Her father borrowed money from the bank in Bitterroot to keep the herd alive. He promised the rain would return. It did not. When the bank called in the dead, her father stood in the yard holding the foreclosure papers with hands that shook. Claire was 16. She watched men load their belongings into a wagon. Her father never spoke again. Not a single word. The silence broke him more than the loss. 6 months later, he was dead. Her mother followed within the year. Claire went east to live with an aunt she barely knew, in a city that felt like a prison. She finished school. She worked in a library. She saved every dollar. And every night, she thought of the Double T. Now, at 28, she had returned. The ranch looked different. The fences were straight and strong. The barn had been rebuilt, painted red. Horses grazed peacefully in the corral. Smoke curled from the chimney of the house she had been born in. Ethan Cole descended the porch steps slowly. He had been a quiet ranch hand back then, 19 years old, loyal to her father. She remembered him working dawn to dusk, without complaint. He had brown eyes that rarely left the horizon and a steadiness that made grown men trust him. "You kept it," she said, her voice tight. "I bought it," he corrected gently. "At auction." Her throat burned. "With what money?" He met her gaze. "Every cent I had." The wind moved through the tall grass. Somewhere a hawk called. "I came to ask you to sell it back," Claire said. "I've saved for 12 years. I have enough now. This ranch belonged to my family. It should belong to me." Ethan nodded slowly. "It should," he agreed. She blinked, startled. "Then you'll sell?" "No," he said. "I'll give it to you." The world tilted beneath her feet. "What?" "I bought it so no one else could," Ethan said. "I've been holding it for you." Her breath came short. "That doesn't make sense. 12 years, Ethan. You couldn't have known I'd come back." He looked at her with something she could not name. "I hoped," he said simply. "Hope doesn't keep a ranch running." "No," he admitted. "Work does. I worked it. I built it back up. I waited." "Why?" The question came out broken. He stepped closer. "Because your father was the first man who ever believed in me," Ethan said. "Because when my own family threw me out at 15, he gave me a job and a place to sleep. Because he taught me what integrity looked like." His voice roughened. "And because the last thing he said to me before the auction was, 'Take care of her if she ever comes home.'" Claire's eyes burned. "I'll sign the deed over tomorrow," Ethan continued. "It's yours, Claire. It always was." She stared at him. This man who had carried her father's last words for 12 years. "I don't understand," she whispered. "You've been running this place. You've made it profitable again. Why would you just give it away?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "Because some things matter more than profit," he said. That night, he offered her the guest room. She barely slept. At dawn, she found him. In the barn, mucking stalls. She stood in the doorway, watching him work. "Where will you go?" she asked quietly. He paused, leaning on the pitchfork. "I'll find another place. You've put 12 years into this land." "And every year was worth it," he replied. She stepped forward. "I need to understand, Ethan. What you're offering, it's not rational." It's not what?" He turned to face her. "It's not a debt you owed my father." His expression softened. "Maybe not, but it's the kind of man I want to be." The words hung between them like something fragile and true. And Claire realized with sudden clarity that she had come home expecting to fight for what was hers. Instead, she had found something she never anticipated. A man who had already been fighting for it all along. Claire spent the morning walking the ranch. Every fence post, every pasture, every corner of the land her father had loved. The double T looked better than she remembered. The irrigation system was new. The cattle were healthy Herefords, strong and well-fed. The vegetable garden beside the house flourished with late summer squash and tomatoes. Ethan had not just maintained the ranch. He had improved it. She found him near the creek, repairing a water trough. He worked with the same quiet efficiency she remembered. When he noticed her approaching, he straightened, wiping sweat from his brow with his forearm. "You've done more than hold it," she said. "You've made it thrive." He shrugged. "Land deserves care." She sat on a flat stone nearby, watching the water slide over smooth rocks. "Tell me how you bought it," she said. "I want to understand." Ethan hesitated, then sat beside her, careful to leave space between them. "After the auction, I had $800 saved," he began. "The ranch sold for $3,000. I borrowed the rest from a cattleman named Samuel Pierce. He'd known your father. He gave me terms no bank would. And you've been paying him back ever since." "Paid him off 5 years ago," Ethan said. "Everything since has gone back into the land." Claire stared at him. "You were 19 years old. You took on that kind of debt for a place that wasn't even yours." "It felt like mine to protect," he answered simply. She looked away, throat tight. "My father trusted too easily. He lost everything because of it." "He trusted people who broke their word," Ethan corrected. "That's not the same as trusting wrong." The distinction settled quietly between them. After a long silence, Claire spoke again. "I came here prepared to hate whoever owned this place," she admitted. "I imagined some wealthy rancher who'd stolen it for nothing. Someone I could fight. And instead you found me." "Instead I found you," she echoed. Their eyes met. Something unspoken moved in the air between them. Claire stood abruptly. "I'll take the deed," she said. "But I won't take it for nothing. Let me buy it properly. Let me pay you what it's worth." Ethan rose slowly. "Claire, I mean it. You've invested 12 years. You've made this place profitable. I won't rob you." His jaw tightened. "You couldn't rob me of something I've been holding for you." "Then let me repay the investment," she pressed. "Let me do this with dignity." He studied her face. "Your father gave me dignity when no one else would," he said quietly. "This is me passing it forward." Before she could argue further, poof beats sounded from the road. They both turned. A rider approached fast, dust rising behind him. The man was older, gray-haired, wearing a sheriff's badge. He reined in hard. "Ethan," the sheriff said, breathing heavy. "We got trouble." "What kind?" The sheriff glanced at Claire, then back at Ethan. "Martin Sutherland's claiming you forged the deed transferred 12 years ago. Says the ranch sale was fraudulent. He's filed a lawsuit to take possession." The name hit Claire like a fist. Martin Sutherland, the banker's son, the man who had called in her father's loan. Ethan's expression went hard as stone. "On what grounds?" "Says your signature on the purchase agreement doesn't match bank records. Says you falsified documents to steal the property." The sheriff looked uncomfortable. "Judge issued a temporary hold on the title. Hearings in 3 days." Claire felt the ground drop beneath her. "That's insane. Ethan bought it legally." "Sutherland's got expensive lawyers," the sheriff said. "They're arguing the original auction was improperly conducted. If the judge agrees, the ranch reverts to the bank's possession. And Martin Sutherland now owns the bank." Ethan's hands curled into fists. He waited 12 years to do this? He waited until the land was profitable again, the sheriff said grimly. Now he wants it back. Claire's mind raced. What proof does Ethan have? Original deed, bill of sale, payment records, Ethan said. Everything's in order. Sutherland's claiming those documents were altered, the sheriff replied. Without independent verification, it's your word against his. And he's got influence. The weight of it crashed over Claire. After everything Ethan had done, after 12 years of work and sacrifice, Martin Sutherland was trying to steal it. There has to be something we can do, she said. The sheriff shook his head. Best advice? Get yourselves a lawyer. Fast. He tipped his hat and rode back toward town. Claire turned to Ethan. His face was carved from granite, but his eyes burned. We fight this, she said fiercely. We don't let him win. Claire, you've held this ranch for 12 years waiting for me, she interrupted. Now I'm here, and I'm not walking away. He looked at her with something raw and grateful. We'll need help, he said. She nodded. Then we find it. That evening, they rode into Bitterroot together. The town had grown since Claire left. New buildings lined the main street, but the bank still stood on the corner, tall and imposing. Martin Sutherland's name gleamed on a brass plate beside the door. They found a lawyer named Ada Brennan working late in her small office. She was sharp-eyed and direct. After hearing their story, she leaned back in her chair. Sutherland's been buying up foreclosed properties across the territory, she said. This isn't personal. It's profit. Can we beat him? Claire asked. Ada studied Ethan. Do you have witnesses from the original sale? Samuel Pierce, Ethan said. The man who lent me the money. He was at the auction. Find him, Ada said. If he'll testify, we have a chance. They left the office as twilight settled over the town. Claire walked beside Ethan, their shoulders nearly touching. We'll find Samuel, she said. We'll prove the sale was legitimate. Ethan stopped walking. Claire, if we lose, we won't. If we do, he continued quietly, I need you to know something. She turned to face him. The dying light touched his face, softening the hard lines. I never regretted it, he said. Not a single day of the last 12 years. Even if I lose everything tomorrow, I'd do it all again. Her breath caught. Why? The question she kept asking. The answer he kept giving in 100 different ways. This time he said it plainly. Because I've been in love with you since I was 19 years old, Ethan said. And holding this place for you was the only way I knew how to hold on to hope. The words settled into her chest like something she had been waiting 12 years to hear. Claire did not sleep that night. She lay in the guest room of her childhood home, staring at the ceiling, hearing Ethan's words over and over. I've been in love with you since I was 19 years old. She had left Montana as a broken girl. She had returned as a woman carrying 12 years of grief and determination. She had not expected love, especially not the kind that had waited patiently, asking for nothing. At dawn, she found Ethan already saddling horses. We ride north today, he said. Samuel Pierce has a cattle operation near Flathead Lake. It's a hard day's journey. They rode through rolling grassland and pine forests, following trails Ethan knew by heart. He spoke little, but his presence beside her felt steady. As the sun climbed higher, Claire finally broke the silence. Why didn't you ever tell me? She asked. He glanced at her. Tell you what? How you felt? Ethan was quiet for a long moment. You were 16 when you left, he said finally. I was 19. You just lost everything. The last thing you needed was some ranch hand making claims on your heart. And after, you were gone, he replied. I didn't know if you'd ever come back. I didn't know if you'd remember me. All I could do was make sure this place was here if you did. Claire's throat tightened. You gave up 12 years, Ethan. I didn't give them up, he corrected gently. I spent them building something worth giving you. They reached Samuel Pierce's ranch by late afternoon. The old cattleman stood on his porch, weathered and gray but sharp-eyed. When he saw Ethan, his face creased into a smile. Ethan Cole, Samuel called. Been too long. Need your help, Samuel, Ethan said, dismounting. They explained the situation. Samuel's expression darkened. Martin Sutherland, he spat. Man's a vulture. Always has been. Will you testify? Claire asked. Tell the judge the sale was legitimate? Samuel nodded firmly. Damn right I will. I was there. I lent Ethan the money myself. Everything was proper and legal. Relief flooded through Claire. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Samuel said. Sutherland's got power. Judge might rule in his favor anyway. Then we make sure the judge hears the truth, Claire replied. They rode back to Bitterroot the next morning, Samuel accompanying them. The hearing was set for noon. The courthouse was packed. Martin Sutherland sat at the front with two lawyers in expensive suits. He was soft-faced and smug, his eyes cold. When he saw Claire, something flickered across his expression. Recognition. Disdain. Judge Harold Brennan, Ada's uncle, Claire learned, presided with stern impartiality. Sutherland's lawyers presented their case first. They claimed the auction documents were improperly filed. They questioned Ethan's ability to afford the purchase. They insinuated fraud. Ada Brennan stood and called Samuel Pierce to testify. The old cattleman spoke plainly. I lent Ethan Cole $2,200 in 1882, Samuel said. He paid me back every cent with interest. The auction was conducted legally. I was there. I witnessed it. Sutherland's lawyer stood. Mr. Pierce, isn't it true you have financial struggles in 1883? Isn't it possible you falsified records to protect your investment? My records are clean, Samuel replied sharply. And my word's worth more than any paper you're holding. The courtroom murmured approval. Then Ada called Ethan to the stand. He spoke quietly but firmly, detailing every payment, every improvement, every year of work. I bought the double T because Thomas Dawson was a good man who deserved better than to lose his legacy, Ethan said. I kept it because I gave him my word I'd take care of it. That's all I've done. Sutherland's lawyer sneered. And the fact that his daughter has now returned? Convenient timing, wouldn't you say? There's nothing convenient about waiting 12 years, Ethan replied evenly. Finally, Ada called Claire. She stood, her hands trembling slightly, and faced the judge. Your Honor, my father lost this ranch because a drought took everything from him, she began. He lost it because Martin Sutherland's father called in a loan during the worst year of our lives. He lost it because no one showed him mercy. Her voice strengthened. Ethan Cole bought this ranch legally. He worked it honorably. He's done everything right. If you take it from him now, you're telling every honest man in this territory that integrity doesn't matter. That power and money will always win. The courtroom went silent. Judge Brennan leaned back, his expression unreadable. Mr. Sutherland, he said finally, do you have any documentation proving fraud? Sutherland's lawyer shuffled papers. We have handwriting analysis suggesting, the judge interrupted. Not proving. He looked at Samuel Pierce. Mr. Pierce, you're willing to stake your reputation on the legitimacy of this sale? I am, Samuel said. Judge Brennan nodded slowly. Then this court finds no evidence of fraud. The original sale stands. Ethan Cole retains legal ownership of the Double T Ranch. The gavel struck. The courtroom erupted in applause. Sutherland's face went red, but he said nothing. He simply stood and walked out, his lawyers trailing behind. Claire felt tears streaming down her face. Ada Brennan smiled. Outside the courthouse, Ethan stood in the sunlight, looking stunned. Claire walked up to him and, without hesitation, took his hands. It's yours, she said. You kept it. You won. He shook his head. It was always supposed to be yours, Claire. Then let's make it ours, she replied. He went very still. What? She stepped closer. Marry me, Ethan Cole. His breath caught. Claire, you've waited 12 years, she said. You've held this ranch for me. You've proven you're the kind of man my father believed you were. And somewhere along the way, I fell in love with the man who never stopped hoping. His hands tightened around hers. You mean it? I mean it. He pulled her close and kissed her, deep and certain. The crowd around the courthouse cheered. 3 months later, they stood on the porch of the Double T as autumn painted the Montana hills gold. The ranch thrived under their partnership. Claire taught school in Bitterroot 3 days a week. Ethan managed the cattle and land. Together, they built something her father would have been proud of. One evening, as they watched the sun set over the grassland, Claire rested her head on Ethan's shoulder. Thank you, she said softly. For what? For waiting. He kissed the top of her head. I'd wait 100 years if it meant coming home to you. And in the fading light, the Double T Ranch stood strong, a place lost, reclaimed, and finally whole.